Part 101. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 1001. Chapter 1001, Who do you want to be with when you are single? I didn't move. Wei raised his hands to prove that he was very obedient. Hey, that's too much. You let me hear such disharmonious words when I first came here. Nangong Luo opened the door and walked in swaggeringly. Come in and don't know how to knock. The door is not closed. It was precisely because he knew they were doing nothing that he came in so bluntly. Wei rolled his eyes and thought, a rigorous person like Gu Jinsi just went out and forgot to close the door? Was it because of what she said that she was distracted? Forget it, I can't think about it. When I think about seeing Nangong Luo just now, I really feel like I've switched sides. In the morning, Gong Qinli accompanied Wei to deal with the guests. In the afternoon, after Gong Qinli and Wei left, Nangong Luo was handling things for Yezikin. He has been busy until now. After explaining the serious matter, Nangong Luo's sensitive nose picked up a faint smell of medicine, and discovered Yes' only injured hand. Only sister, what's wrong with you? It's okay not to ask, but when I asked, it aroused Yezikin's anger again. At this time, Z couldn't hold it in any longer, so Yezikin called Secretary Zhao directly. At this moment, Secretary Zhao is still holding on to the remaining red envelope. No matter how hard Len Yangzi tries to trick him, she can't let him go. Secretary Zhao was still a little dazed when she answered the phone, but as soon as she heard that her boss had something to do, she became sober. He directly put the box containing the red envelope into Len Yangzi's hand. Len Yangzi almost cried with gratitude when she got the remaining red envelope. Well, it's not that exaggerated. She collected all the red envelopes without coveting any money. If Secretary Zhao hadn't been holding this box all the time, which really damaged the owner's image, she wouldn't have cared so much. Seeing Secretary Zhao suddenly sober up while drunk, he spoke clearly and confidently when he answered the phone, but after hanging up the phone, he became confused again. Secretary Zhao, Mr. Chen asked you to do something but you didn't even go. Go, let's go. Secretary Zhao is still thinking about leaving now. Len Yangzi's eyes widened. What she said just now was just to stimulate him, but it turned out that Secretary Zhao was thinking about it and had to do it now. Hey, I was just teasing you. It's very late now. Don't go. Len Yangzi dared to let him, the drunkard, do anything like this. If something happened, she would be in big trouble. But Secretary Zhao is now selectively obedient. He remembers what he wants to hear clearly, and automatically blocks what he doesn't want to hear. He had memorized all the boss's orders. As for Len Yangzi's words to inspire him and then stop him, it was completely useless. For his safety and the reputation of the Ye family, Len Yangzi had no choice but to stay with Secretary Zhao. She watched Secretary Zhao explain clearly what he had to do in a confused state, and finally explained it to Yezikin. The result seemed to be good. Len Yangzi wanted to applaud him at that time. As expected of the Secretary General of the Ye Group. Other than Yezikin and the shareholders, the person with the most say in the company is Secretary Zhao. He has to have a good relationship with the people below him, and he has to pay attention to the orders of his immediate superiors. He also has to be very capable. It can be said that Secretary Zhao is very strong. Beauty, are you single? What's wrong? It's good to be single. Aha! It's good to be single, it's good to be single, and it's good to be single with whomever you want. Len Yangzi silently took out her mobile phone and recorded Secretary Zhao's appearance. It's good to be single, it's good to be single, it's good to be single with whoever you want to be with. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 1002. Chapter 1002, Tryst in the Woods. Hey, where is your home? You want to go to my house? What do you want to do? Do you have a crush on me? I. Len Yangzi wanted to hit someone after hearing this. She was kind enough to want to help him get a taxi, but this guy actually came up with so many tricks. Secretary Zhao, I'm kind enough to take you home. If you make trouble again, I'll throw you out on the street. No, no, I'm not going to sleep on the street, I want to go home. If you want to go home, tell me your address. The address is 6-2, Unit 2, No XXXX32, my home. Okay, okay, it's your home. Len Yangzi helped Secretary Zhao take a taxi on the street. Seeing Secretary Zhao like this, she had no choice but to adhere to the idea of helping people to the end and sending Buddha to the west to deliver Secretary Zhao to the location he reported. Perhaps after seeing his own neighborhood, Secretary Zhao took the initiative to take out the sensor key and open the door. But Secretary Zhao refused to leave after entering the door. Len Yangzi couldn't find the direction for a while, so she had to ask him, left or right. Secretary Zhao reached out and pointed forward. Yeah, Len Yangzi looked up and saw lush trees in front of her. Secretary Zhao pointed to the right again, but before stopping for 3 seconds, he pointed to the left again. Which way are you going to go? Len Yangzi couldn't determine which building it was from the way he directed her. Go to the right, finally, Secretary Zhao insisted on these 2 words. Len Yangzi believed it. She helped Secretary Zhao go to the right, and ended up walking into a small pavilion. There is a road here, and Len Yangzi wants to walk through it. It is now past 10 o'clock in the evening, very late, and there are no people in the community. Len Yangzi just supported Secretary Zhao and walked into the pavilion without any precautions. But why are there 2 people sitting over there? Len Yangzi was startled when she saw them for the first time. She took a closer look and suddenly found that the 2 people looked familiar. Secretary Zhao beside him made a fuss, attracting the attention of the 2 people. Now the 4 people looked at each other and recognized each other's identity. In this environment, everyone knows it well and plans to continue their own affairs tacitly. But Secretary Zhao seemed to be afraid that others would not notice him, so he rushed up and said hello with a smile on his face, "Miss you, Mr. Kitano, good evening." Ha, Len Yangzi's expression was about to collapse at that time. What has happened to her? Now I have to walk over and say hello, "Miss you, Mr. Kitano, good evening." After finishing speaking, I realized why she had directly copied what Secretary Zhao had just said. Yuan Ran stood up, nodded to them, and said, "Good evening." If it were originally true, Bei Xiao would have arrogantly knocked on Erlang's legs and turned over to tease Secretary Zhao a few words. Now because Yuan Ran was present, Bei Xiao restrained his temper and stood up and said, "Good evening." As if echoing Yuan Ran's words, he is hers. Len Yangzi has stayed with Ye Wei for such a long time, so she must have some understanding of the affairs of Yu Bei and the 2. Now seeing Bei Ye like this, she can't help but sigh. "Miss Yu, if you have something to do, continue. Secretary Zhao is drunk, so I will send him back." Len Yangzi was about to grease her solace and leave. Yuan Ran nodded. I thought it would end like this, but who knew Secretary Zhao was so restless? "Miss Yu, let me tell you, I saw many beautiful women accosting Mr. Kitano at the wedding banquet today." Bei Ye frowned. "Of course, listen to my explanation." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1003. Chapter 1003. I will sacrifice my life for him. In front of Yuan Ran, Secretary Zhao kept repeating one sentence, "There are many beauties chatting with Mr. Kitano." Bei Ye explained to Yuan Ran that he really wanted to beat up Secretary Zhao. "Of course, I am loyal to you. You are the only one in my eyes and heart. I don't see any other women. You are not blind and can't see, Yuan Ran retorted coldly. Kitano explained forcefully again, my eyes have seen it, but I have no impression. But after what he said, Yuan Ran was finally willing to respond to his personal topic just now. Kitano found a reason to be happy and motivated from a tricky angle. Len Yangzi tried her best to drag Secretary Zhao away, but Secretary Zhao suddenly changed her mind and said, Miss Yu, let me tell you, Mr. Kitano, Mr. B is really sincere towards you. Secretary Zhao, please stop talking. Even if he suddenly changes his mind and says something nice, a drunk person is still a time bomb. Who knows what he will say in the next second? But Secretary Zhao suddenly became very persistent, so he pulled him away a few steps and ran to another place. The deal Mr. Kitano made with our boss was not a loss at all, Secretary Zhao said while waving his hands and raising his voice to remind her. Len Yangzi was angry and stepped Secretary Zhao's instep, if you don't leave, I'll throw you into the street. Not going to the street. Len Yangzi's words finally worked. Secretary Zhao walked behind her, obediently. But the drunkard was gone, but his words had already taken root in the hearts of the people. Beiya made a fist with one hand and raised it to the corner of his mouth and coughed lightly, well, it's very late today. Go back upstairs and have a rest. He wanted to run away after saying hello, showing obvious avoidance and guilty conscience. Stop. Has half of the words been said? How could Yuan Ran let him slip away like this without any reason? Tell me what's going on. B turned around and suddenly leaned close to Yuan Ran, his face pressed against hers. The warmth gradually rose around the two of them. Of course, are you caring about me? Yuan Ran was almost seduced by him. Hearing the sound of his own heartbeat speeding up, he felt uneasy. Yuan Ran stretched out his hand to push the person away, pretending to be indifferent, and forcefully explained, I just want to know the facts. OK, B sighed and said in an indifferent tone, the fact is that I was a pauper at the beginning, and the superior young master of the Ye family gave me a hand. Yuan Ran asked, people like Yezikin will not do anything without profit. What did you promise to him? How is it impossible? The young master from the rich family was bored and wanted to tease others. I didn't expect that I, Kitano, was born smart and would take this opportunity to make a comeback. B. Don't be ridiculous, she may not know much about what kind of person Yezikin is, but she knows one thing clearly. Yezikin is a very extreme businessman. He will never do anything meaningless. That kind of so-called good thing is a waste of time for him, unless there is something he likes in exchange. B wiped his hair with both hands. Now he did not get all this out of thin air, it can be said that he fought for it with his own life. Unable to hide it, he had to tell her, at first, he thought I was a ruthless person who could achieve things. So he was willing to provide me with money and help, on the condition that I would sacrifice my life for him. I went to Comic Expo today on Chinese Valentine's Day. I'm very late in updating. He his hair in double ponytails, wore a pink Lolita skirt, and carried a cute bear bag. It's so cute. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1004. Chapter 1004 Oh. So, in the 5 years since you left City S, you have been helping Yezikin. Yeah, but mainly for myself. At that time, he wanted to achieve great results and return to Yuan Ran as a winner. He wanted to see her regret giving up. However, at this point, it seems that there is nothing more to say. Of course, it's all over. You never told me about the 5 years you spent. What would Kitano be like during those 5 years? Beiya raised the corner of his mouth lightly, taking the opportunity to seek benefits for himself. If you want to know, I can tell you slowly. Yuan Ran was silent. No response, but no refutation. Let's go, I'll take you upstairs. Yu and Ran moved out of the Yu family again. This time, she did not refuse. The lights in Secretary Zhao's room were as bright as daylight. Len Yangzi took a lot of effort to get the person upstairs. Now she slapped the drunkard and pushed him to lie down on the sofa. Len Yangzi sat on the edge of the sofa. Keep fanning with your hands. I'm exhausted. When you wake up tomorrow, I have to pay you for your labor. Len Yangzi was panting as she spoke, and there was sweat on her forehead, which showed that she had really worked hard along the way. Secretary Zhao, does your home have water? Toilet, Secretary Zhao pointed in a direction. Len Yangzi sighed. If she faced a sober person, she probably wouldn't come in. Even if she did, she would be very reserved sitting in someone else's house. He would hold back when he was thirsty, and he would go back when he was tired. But now she couldn't bear it anymore, because she was tired and thirsty and had to face a drunkard who couldn't communicate normally. No matter how good her temper was, she could hardly hold back. I don't want to go to the toilet, I want to drink water, I'm dying of thirst. Drink water. Secretary Zhao repeated the key points of her words, and did not directly point her in the direction. He had to stand up and pull her in one direction. When I walked in, I realized that this was a kitchen. There is a refrigerator in the kitchen. Len Yangzi glanced at Secretary Zhao and said, regardless of whether he understood it now, I am tired and thirsty because I sent you home. Is it okay to get you something? He hesitated for a moment, then opened the refrigerator. But when I opened it, there was nothing in the refrigerator. What the hell? Such a large refrigerator was as clean as anything, making Len Yangzi feel like a useless decoration for an instant. The only idea is to put the kettle on, boil some water on the spot and wait for it to cool down. Secretary Zhao, if you wake up tomorrow and still remember this, you must know that I am not rude, but your own problem. I am your benefactor, and you should repay me. Oh. Secretary Zhao seemed to understand, but also seemed not to listen. Hearing the sound of water boiling, Len Yangzi turned around and asked Secretary Zhao, do you have a cup? Secretary Zhao scratched his hair and thought for a moment, then pointed, there. There are cups on the cabinet against the wall. Len Yangzi reached out to take it off. When she took it off, her long sleeve accidentally touched something on it. It fell to the ground with a pop sound. Len Yangzi squatted down to pick it up, but unexpectedly found some photos in the envelope. There was a corner of the photo exposed. Len Yangzi stared at it, feeling a little familiar. She took out a photo from the envelope, and the protagonist of the photo turned out to be himself. Why? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1005. Chapter 1005 Stalker. Why is Secretary Zhao's photo here? From taking out all the envelopes, it can be seen that the photos she sent are all places she has been to or things she has done every day. A creepy feeling instantly arose in my heart, as if I was being followed by a stalker. Len Yangzi immediately picked up her handbag and started to leave. When she was about to close the door, she turned around and saw Secretary Zhao, who was still standing at the door of the kitchen, and stepped back. Secretary Zhao is such a smart person. If he is sober, he will definitely not gain much benefit. It is better to attack now when he has no offensive power. Len Yangzi placed the photos directly in front of him. Secretary Zhao, why do you have these photos here? Why do I have photos here? Secretary Zhao picked up the photo from in front of him, held it up for a glance, and then pressed the photo tightly against his eyes. You can't see it? Oh, stop playing around and tell me, why do you have so many daily photos of me here? These photos must have been taken by someone following her. The only explanation is that she was being followed. The funny thing is that she never found out. But she remembered the outfit and the place she had been to, and it should have happened within 3 days. Secretary Zhao, are you following me? No, no, no. Secretary Zhao shook his head repeatedly, denying it faster than anyone else. Then what's going on? No, Secretary Zhao shook his head and fell asleep directly beside the stool. Hello. Secretary Zhao. Holy shit, you stinky man, he kicked Secretary Zhao's feet directly. He was fine, but Len Yangzi hugged her feet and hissed, you ungrateful bastard. Len Yangzi was about to slam the door and go out again, but she thought that she couldn't take advantage of Secretary Zhao so easily. She thought about waiting for Secretary Zhao to wake up and question her. But after she came back, she couldn't help but think, if those photos were taken intentionally by Secretary Zhao, wouldn't Secretary Zhao be in danger? In order to improve her personal safety, Len Yangzi found something to tie Secretary Zhao's hands and feet. The next day, as the sun rose into the sky, Secretary Zhao finally woke up. He wanted to be lazy as usual, but when he moved, he realized that he seemed to be restrained by something and couldn't move. When he opened his eyes, he found that the backs of his hands were tied to the legs of the chair, and even his feet were not spared. Who kidnapped me? Secretary Zhao roared excitedly, waking up Len Yangzi, who was lying on the big soft sofa. Len Yangzi rubbed her eyes, sat up and stretched, and suddenly found that the environment in front of her was a bit strange, as if it was not the room she usually saw when she woke up. Until Secretary Zhao burst out and asked from behind, "Hey, who are you?" Len Yangzi looked back and then remembered that this was Secretary Zhao's home. Last night she Secretary Zhao while he was sleeping. Later, when she was too tired, she did it on the sofa. She found that the sofa was too soft and she accidentally fell asleep. Have slept till now. Len Yangzi straightened her clothes and walked over, looking down at Secretary Zhao. Secretary Zhao looked up and saw Len Yangzi, feeling incredible. It's you. What do you want to do to me? Rob wealth or sex? Len Yangzi. How could she not know that Secretary Zhao, who usually looked mature and steady, had such a tone? Len Yangzi took out the photo on the table and placed it in front of Secretary Zhao, and asked, "Tell me, what's going on with the photo? It's not a secret love anyway." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1006. Chapter 1006, Big Metamorphosis. Photo, huh. When Len Yangzi placed the photo in front of him, Secretary Zhao was confused. Is this your photo? What does your photo have to do with me? I personally found these photos on your closet. If you don't tell the truth today, you will never get out of this door safely. Len Yangzi learned not only some abilities and knowledge under Ye Yuyi's careful training, but also courage and small tricks. People like Secretary Zhao, you must not eat it with him, and it is best to apply both hard and hard. Len Yangzi directly revealed what happened yesterday. I kindly sent you home yesterday when you were drunk. You were trying so hard to get a glass of water to quench your thirst, but I discovered something like this. Could it be Secretary Zhao? Are you secretly in love with me? Secretary Zhao immediately retorted, "Bullshit. Don't talk nonsense. I'm clean in my heart and not that dirty. Bah, don't try to change the topic. I just want to know where this photo came from and why it fell into your hands." Len Yangzi is not someone who is easy to fool now. Even if that person changed the topic 18 times, no matter what, she would immediately change the topic back to the main point. Secretary Zhao was stunned for a moment and said calmly, "I don't know what's going on with this photo. You probably need to go through some hardships before you are willing to confess." At this point, Len Yangzi's expression suddenly changed. She squatted beside him and began to stretch her hands in his direction, proving that her threatening words were not just words. What do you want to do? Secretary Zhao, a grown man, is being forced by a woman, and it is embarrassing to speak out. However, his hands and feet were tied and he couldn't resist. Len Yangzi suddenly leaned over, took out a feather duster and started to tickle his feet. Put it down, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Secretary Zhao couldn't stop laughing and couldn't even finish his sentence. Len Yangzi, you crazy woman. You still dare to scold me, you stalker and pervert. Who is the stalker, you woman, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Secretary Zhao, it's already here and you still don't mind your mouth. Please understand that you are in my hands now. You should pay attention to your words. As soon as Len Yangzi threatened, she even accelerated her tickling. Action. Secretary Zhao, who was ticklish, was so amused by her that she couldn't stop laughing. I dare not curse anyone even if I want to. The only option is to beg for mercy. I was wrong, Miss Len, I was wrong, okay. Let me go, don't ha ha ha, don't. Finally hearing Secretary Zhao admit her mistake, Len Yangzi temporarily put the feather duster away. Tell me, what's going on with the photo? It was taken by someone. Why did you shoot me? I'm concerned about how you are doing. You know what I'm asking. Don't try to deal with me. You want to eat the feather duster, don't you? No, I said, can't you do it after I said it? What do you say? What about that? Didn't you have a history of committing crimes before? The boss is a little worried, but the young lady treats you very well. He can't object directly, so he just asked us to keep a closer look. Secretary Zhao thought for a while and honestly put this the words were spoken. Actually, this is not a big secret. He feels that there is no harm in telling Len Yangzi. After telling her the truth, Secretary Zhao comforted her, don't think too much. You know that our boss cares about the young lady very much. Not only you, but everyone else who takes care of the young lady will also be investigated. Don't take it to heart. Len Yangzi threw away the feather duster and felt a little cold. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1007. Chapter 1007. A little puppy boyfriend. Doesn't a person who has done something wrong deserve to be forgiven? I've already said, don't think like that. Look how kind the young lady is to you. Let's talk about me. If I really thought you were a bad person, I wouldn't tell you the truth so directly. If Secretary Zhao, I really didn't want to say it, but Len Yangzi couldn't force him to spit out a word no matter how hard she tickled him. Seeing that Len Yangzi was a little distracted, Secretary Zhao suddenly became kind-hearted and poured some chicken soup for her soul. It depends on how a person is, not what she says, but what she does. As long as you take good care of the young lady, the boss will also believe you. Len Yangzi chuckled after hearing this. You are right. Ye Wei helped her a lot in the beginning, and was willing to believe her even after she made a mistake. For such a good benefactor, she should do her best to be kind to her. Len Yangzi then took the scissors to cut the rope and apologized sincerely. Secretary Zhao, I'm sorry. Secretary Zhao was angry and felt a little embarrassed, but facing a little girl like Len Yangzi, he couldn't express his anger. Finally he sighed, oh, I'm unlucky. Len Yangzi apologized again, thank you anyway. After Len Yangzi left, Secretary Zhao reported the stalking exposure to Yezikin. Yezikin didn't get angry when he learned about it. He just said calmly, don't worry about her now. It means that I am willing to believe her. Secretary Zhao was secretly happy. This was one less troublesome thing. It seems that he was quite drunk this time. However, Secretary Zhao was not happy for a long time when the creditor came to his door. When B rushed to the door to find him, Secretary Zhao was completely confused. He only heard B asking, Secretary Zhao, do you still remember what you said that you shouldn't have said last night? This problem. Secretary Zhao scratched his hair and said, Mr. Kitano, I drank too much last night. I don't remember anything I said or did. B stood there with a gloomy face and a cold tone. You said in front of Yuan Ran last night that many women chatted with me. Bei, Mr. Kitano, that must be a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Just because of your words, my wife is jealous and angry. How do you think I should repay you? Mr. Kitano, I really forgot. I'll explain it to you and make up for my mistake. Secretary Zhao was about to leave, but B suddenly reached out to stop him. No need. Huh? I really didn't mean to do this. Secretary Zhao tried to explain. B's eyes were deep. Well, I know you didn't mean it. Secretary Zhao suddenly felt that his mind was a little hard to turn around. What about you? At this time, Kitano put away his hands, adjusted his brows, and his sharp expression suddenly turned into a lazy and casual expression. As if to say casually, oh, I just wanted to scare you. Secretary Zhao raised his hand and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Mr. Kitano went all the way in person just to scare me. It's really troublesome for you. Hey, what are you talking about? Who would run away for you? I'm here to find my wife. Kitano mocked Secretary Zhao, who was single, and then turned around and left, leaving a single person in my heart messy in the wind. What's the situation? Is there still such an operation? Later, Secretary Zhao went downstairs and saw Beiya following Yuan Ran, like a little puppy. In fact, Kitano is a typical little wolf dog. Ha ha ha. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1008. Chapter 1008. Don't touch me. At a time when B had already made plans to die alone and still held on to a glimmer of hope, Yuan Ran seemed to have figured out something. Well, you really don't care, do you? Never have children of your own in your life? Kitano expressed his feelings without hesitation. You are the most important. Yuan Ran said, I am a very selfish person, and I can't help but feel sorry for myself. If we are together, even if you regret it one day, I will never agree. Her words were a warning. But Kitano didn't need to consider the consequences at all. The key point he grasped was, but are you willing to accept me? Beiya grabbed Yuan Ran's wrist excitedly, and his performance caught Yuan Ran off guard. Of course, you agreed to be with me, are you sorry? Without waiting for Yuan Ran to answer, he directly hugged her into his arms. Of course, I'm really happy, very happy. B's reaction was completely beyond Yuan Ran's surprise. Such a big man would be as happy as a big boy because of her words. When B hugged her, Yuan Ran didn't answer, but slowly raised his hands to hug her back. Beiya could feel it, and he was so happy that he picked him up and spun him around. Ran, thank you. Thank you for your willingness to forgive me for being naive, thank you for waiting for me until now, thank you for having appeared in my life and being willing to continue to accompany me in the future. Yuan Ran accepted Beiya, this time, when both of them were clear-minded. Beiya asked Yuan Ran to move in with him, but Yuan Ran did not agree immediately. Yuan Ran said, wait until I tell mom about you. Because the last confusing marriage left a psychological shadow, she wanted to follow the normal procedure this time, take Kitano back to meet her family, and get married again after getting her mother's blessing. Beiya thought that Yuan Ran could not accept everything so quickly, so he did not press as aggressively as before. If the mountain is not mine, I will be the mountain. That night, Kitano packed up and moved into Yuan Ran's small bedroom. It could be said that it was very shameless. Yuan Ran originally wanted to take it easy, but she didn't expect that B was an action person and took action without saying anything, which really made her angry and couldn't help but laugh. Yuan Ran arranged Beiya in the next room, which was also the only guest room here. I thought Kitano might refute or argue with reason, but I didn't expect Kitano to put the things there very readily and stayed there for 3 days without saying anything. This fact made Yuan Ran feel a little strange, and she even thought that Kitano had really changed his gender this time. It's just these 3 days, only these 3 days. 3 days later, on the night of the 4th day, someone locked the door of his room while Yuan Ran was taking a shower, then ran to Yuan Ran's room and lied, "I accidentally locked the door, and the key was also inside." Yuan Ran glanced at him and went to look for the spare key without saying a word, but couldn't find it. "Be struck while the iron was hot, of course, you'd be kind enough to give me half of the bed." Yuan Ran closed the drawer with the key, already convinced that Kitano did it on purpose. Because she never puts things away randomly, the spare key was missing, it could only have been taken away. "The key is called out." Beye pretended to be stupid. "What key?" "I don't know." Yuan Ran didn't believe it and went to search him directly. Beye reminded her, "Don't touch me, something will happen." Something will happen, and it's going to be a big one this time. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1009. Chapter 1009, A Single Man and a Single Woman. Something will happen, something will really happen. By the time Yuan Ran reacted and wanted to escape, it was already too late. She was imprisoned in the man's arms. She had not been in contact with him for a long time, and the deep-seated feeling in her memory was stirred up again. You can imagine what will happen if a man and a woman are alone, and the sticks come into contact with the fire. Late at night, when Kitano fell asleep with his wife in his arms with satisfaction, he thought happily that his happy life in the future was secure. But, the day of being slapped in the face comes so quickly. Beye was kicked out of the house by Yuan Ran the next day. Beye refused to leave, so Yuan Ran moved directly back to the Yu family. Well, in fact, Yuan Ran had already prepared a speech and planned to go back to Yu's house to have a good talk with MRSU about Kitano. It's just that Yuan Ran was unlucky. She met Xiaohe and Xiaohe's mother again this time. "I heard that Xiaohe went on a business trip a while ago, and he couldn't wait to visit Yu's house when he came back." Yuan Ran had one thought at that time: this mother and son are really free. The Xiao family is developing well now, and Xiaohe himself is very capable, but the assets and history of the Xiao family are still a little inferior to that of the Yu family, so Xiaohe's mother has always been determined to promote the affairs of the two children. When she saw Yuan Ran this time, Xiaohe's mother felt that the girl was beautiful again and she didn't look so cold. If Xiaohe's mother knew that Yuan Ran's change was due to other men, she probably wouldn't think so. Yuan Ran is because his body is getting better now, his mental outlook looks much better, and he is in a good mood recently, so he is angry and feels a lot of life. When Xiaohe's mother came this time, she mentioned it directly to MRSU: "I think these two children are really suitable, or our two families will get married." MRSU was a little hesitant because she was hiding something about Yuan Ran's body. Xiaohe, who usually talked a lot, looked at Yuan Ran, waiting for her to respond. Yuan Ran put away the unnecessary expression on her face and told them clearly, "Thank you, MRS Xiao, for your support, but I already have a boyfriend." Ah! When she said this, no one seemed to be able to accept it. Xiaohe glanced at Yuan Ran a few more times, as if he wanted to distinguish the truth from the false in her eyes, but then he thought of the recent news from Beye, and everything seemed to have a reasonable explanation. In front of outsiders, MRSU didn't have the nerve to ask any more questions. Xiaohe's mother's expression changed, she said a few words and left with her son. When all the outsiders left, MRSU's face became a little ugly. "What's going on? Do you really have a boyfriend?" Why have I never heard of you talking about it? Yuan Ran explained calmly, we just confirmed the relationship in the past 2 days, and I haven't had time to tell you yet. MRSU nodded, understanding. But when she asked who the other party was and what his identity was, Yuan Ran paused for a moment. Then he said, you know that person too. Don't play riddles with me, who is it? B. What? When she heard that her daughter was with Kitano, MRSU had a huge reaction. She had heard about Kitano's pursuit of Yuan Ran before, but she thought that her daughter had not responded for so long, and she probably had forgotten the original relationship. As a result, the relationship went round and returned to the original relationship. But Kitano is no longer the young boy with no capital. But MRSU was worried, are you sure he is sincere to you? Find some time and bring it to me to take a look. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1010. Chapter 1010, Losing One's Virginity in Gambling. Snap dash. When Yi Suiao escaped from this black shop for the 5th time, she was about to succeed, but because of her anxiety, she knocked over something and made a sound. Someone come and catch her. Before she could run very far, her whereabouts were discovered, and several men picked up there to take her back. Yi Suiao ran forward hard and finally got into a truck. She was able to hide easily because of her thin body. No one noticed her hiding in the truck. When the train left, she finally left that terrible place. Yi Suiao squatted in the carriage, recalling what happened to her during this period, and felt chills all over. When Xiang Zimu and her mother were imprisoned for persecuting Yuan Ran, she was kicked out of Xiang's family. At that time, she only had the last money that Xiang Zimu left for her. She had no shelter, no food and clothing, and her life was very difficult. Beiye refused to see her. At that time, she saw Xiang Zimu and her mother in prison. She was also afraid that Beiye would implicate her because of Yuan Ran's kidney transplant, so she never dared to go to Beiye, thinking that she would get through it first. Ask for forgiveness after some time. She even put down her dignity and contacted her old classmates, but in fact, she dropped out of school very early and didn't have any very close friends. Even if I found someone I had dealt with before, I let her stay for 2 days at first, and then politely asked her to leave within a week. Some people just met her and invited her to have a meal. When Yi Suiao felt that she was in a desperate situation, she went to sleep on the bridge and overheard someone saying that she had won money in the casino and turned from a debt-ridden pauper into a small boss. Yi Suiao weighed the 200 or 300 she had left and went to the casino. I didn't expect it to be a scam from beginning to end. She really won money at the beginning. From 2 to 300, she got 2 to 3,000 in one go. She was very happy that day, but also a little cautious. She stopped gambling at that time, went out to find a cheap hotel, had a good meal, and had a warm night's sleep. She spent 2 or 3 days in dire straits, and then found out that she had no money again. She took 1,000 to gamble, but the money came back to 20,000 or 30,000. Slowly, her interest was piqued, and she felt that she was possessed by the god of gamblers and had great luck. Unexpectedly, a defeat left her in debt worth millions. By the time she realized something was wrong, it was already too late. She was taken by the owner of the casino to make money, using her body as a trade, and it was mandatory to make money. People who go to that kind of place tend to have some special hobbies. She really couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to run away. She didn't succeed the first time and was dragged back to education. It was her boss who instilled some ideas in her. But she was unwilling to give in and ran away a second time, but this time Yunkai was not so good. After being caught back, she was beaten severely. Over and over again, she almost had to compromise like this. But when she tried to accept it, she met a truly perverted customer, which was really hard to accept. She was never willing to stay here, even if she was beaten severely, she would escape. Later, she was no longer as impulsive as before and began to make plans and wait for the time. Until a few days ago, she saw a photo from the wedding of Yezikin and Yewi in an entertainment weekly brought by a guest. Although the wedding was not open to the public, it was a big news in the upper class after all, and a few photos were leaked. End of this chapter.